Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to Modern Wong Chat. I kind of took a short break. We were supposed to do this on Tuesday as well, but we didn't really get around to it because there was hurricane going on and pandemics going on, and my guest wasn't able to get on the call, and I've been like taking lots of breaks. I feel like I deserve the break right now because people is like, oh, you should work hard, but at the same time, like they're like, it's a pandemic. Take it easier. Anyway, we are on episode, I believe, 49. I want to do something big for 50, maybe. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about it. But as always, you can watch us live on twitch.tv/ModernWongPhoto. You can also listen to this on iTunes. You can also listen to this on Spotify. And of course, we have it on YouTube and everything. Make sure you follow me and everyone else on Twitter, on Instagram, on everywhere else. Tonight, I have an amazing guest. You know what? This is the problem. I don't want to say her name wrong, so I'm going to have her say it. Like, I'm sure I'm not the only person that has this problem. So I'm just gonna let her do the thing and let her explain, how to say it and how she got around to get that. So, what's up there, friend?
Insert name here. Hi, hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. You are not the first person who's had this problem. It happens all the time. And had I known that I would be a streamer, I probably would have made a username that people could pronounce.
I feel like I'm a little bit dyslexic, so I'd be like, in my head, it's like Roxy. It's like, okay, negaoryx, I got it. But then I'm like, but
I
it's
mean,
not
that's
Roxy.
Close. That's close. It's negaoryx. My dog's name is Oryx. And
okay.
and then the first part came from the Negaverse from Sailor Moon, because I was always a huge Sailor Moon fan.
Who's your favorite Sailor Moon?
Honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't know if I wanted to be Sailor Jupiter or marry Sailor Jupiter, but I just knew that I loved Sailor Jupiter.
In the American version, some of the Sailor, they're a sister or a cousin, right? Instead of lovers.
I was gonna say they kind of weren't quite as bold as they could have been.
They weren't ready for that case yet, so
they weren't ready.
Though, because I feel like Asian cultures are usually more reserved, so it's kind of strange how, right?
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting seeing how different that is as well. Like, I'm really surprised that the original, they were cool with that, and then bringing it to the US, they were like, no, let's pull back.
Right?
Just honestly, I'm all for making it gayer. Make more gay romances in Sailor Moon, please.
And there's so many. I think like the whole entertainment pop culture is more embracing it now too, which is great.
Yeah, definitely more baby steps. I know there's a show on, I want to say Disney Channel. I'm pretty sure it's Disney Channel. That's an animated show targeted at kids called The Owl House, and they had their spoilers, I guess, if you watch The Owl House. Heads up, anyone listening. They did their prom episode recently, and they had two girls who went to prom together, and very explicitly, I believe it's the lead of the show and her love interest are both women, which is really cool. Like, Disney never would have allowed that even a couple years ago. So I feel like
we're
getting there, progress.
Eventually we'll get to that spot where we don't have to emphasize that, like, oh, we have, gay characters instead of because sometimes I feel like we did a few years where we emphasize hey, look, we're very diverse, we have this, I used to be shooting for my school, my college, and then we have that too. They're like, hey, we need our photos, they request me we need photos to be more diverse. I'm like, what does that mean? So I have to randomly find people of different skin colors, and it's we also maybe some non-straight people in the photo. Like, how do I show someone is gay? Do I need them making out? What is going on?
That's the worst part too, is it's people have these preconceived notions over how do you want me to convey that these people aren't straight? You know what I mean? Because I'm not straight, and I think maybe people wouldn't realize that looking at me, you never know. But I think especially it's 2020, we need to challenge that notion of what does it mean to look a certain way or to act a certain way or to present a certain way. I bring that up all the time because for me, I'm bisexual and I've always been in relationships with men. And I'm always reminding people, just because you're bisexual and you're dating somebody like for me, being a woman dating a man doesn't erase my bisexuality. It doesn't mean that
Mhm.
I'm in a heterosexual relationship. It means I'm a bisexual woman dating a
Mhm.
man, you know?
Yeah, and
Uh,
we were talking about this right before the stream too, how I have long hair. And like
mhm.
I get hit on by guys all the time. I'm like, sure, you know what? A free drink is free drink.
I like that.
I definitely got hit on by more guys last year than girls. 'Cause I don't think I got hit on by any girls last year. But guys definitely are very bold when it comes to it. I'm like, cool. I mean, I always tell them too, like when they try to buy me a drink, say, hey, you know, I'm not gay, but if you still want to buy me a drink, you know, we can chat. It's like, yeah, sure, man. You seem fun. It's like, cool.
I was gonna say, as long as you're not leading anyone on,
Oh
I
no.
really like that. I really like that you can be like, hey, you know, I'm not interested. Thank you so much. That's super flattering of you. But if you want to still buy me a drink and we can hang out, I'm down. And I love when people are like, yeah, okay, let's do it.
Yeah,
It's
usually those
just nice.
conversations get really fun too.
Yeah.
But also the problem for us though, we work in the industry, the gaming industry.
Mhm.
So one of the major problem we have is problem. Every bar we go to is an open bar. So sometimes it's
Yeah.
really hard for them to buy me a drink, but they can get me a drink. So it's actually
Yeah.
easy because then they can get me a drink. It doesn't hurt or anything, and doesn't hurt the wallet. At
Nobody's
least.
spending any money. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
I was going to say, if anyone listening isn't a part of the industry or doesn't go to industry parties, that's what it's like. Like when you go to these events, it's usually open bar, and
So much open bar.
oh my gosh, and the thing is, conventions are so jam packed into like 2 nights or 3
Mm-hmm.
nights. And you'll have like 3 parties in one night and then have early
Yep.
morning meetings. And so everyone is trying to get as many free drinks as possible, but then they're still trying to look good the next day. And oh my gosh.
Like I have some of those nights were really fun where like I would go from one party to another and then like you see some people at the first party, it's like hi, and then you like, you know, I gotta go. You go to the second party and they also there. I'm like, I just saw you at the other party.
You're all kind of going, it's like you start at the Discord party, you go to the Twitch partner party, then you know, you go from there to there to there,
Yep.
and you definitely run into the same people over and over for
Which is
sure.
great. I mean, that's good thing
Yeah.
that like you kind of know who are the people in the industry and also cheers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, cheers. Hey,
Yeah.
I meant to ask you. I'm gonna clink on here, I guess. What did you get? What's your beverage?
Right now, well, because I was kind of in a rush and I'm not sure what to mix, so I just have gin.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
nice.
So
Uh,
like I put away my coffee because I feel like alcohol is a downer and coffee is upper. I feel like mixing them might not be the best idea. You know.
yeah, no, maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I'll
Maybe
just do
just a
some.
gin.
Yeah, I'll just do some drug instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So, but yeah, normally, I mean, I said this earlier too. I have makeup on right now, so I look a little
Mhm.
bit better. But I look really red still. I'm not sure the coloring. Oh, cause I got that nude light over there. Maybe that,
You
guys.
you have a really bright light.
Yeah, no, like my whole room is like, I've been, you know, making the whole set a little bit different. So been
Mhm.
very retro stuff. So maybe I think that guy's a little bit bright. I'm gonna turn it down to make me look less red. Like I should know about my lighting better. But the thing is like also, yeah, normally because I'm Asian, I would get the Asian glow very easily. Like, have
Yeah.
you had friends that have that?
My first boyfriend who I dated for about 6 years was Thai. His family was from Bangkok.
Mhm.
And we dated we dated, like I said, you know, for 6 years, and for the first 2 years, he never said anything to me about it, and then one day, it was New Year's Eve, and he goes, "Don't you hate when you're drinking alcohol and your throat closes up and you break out in hives and you get all itchy and your face gets red?" And I looked at him and I was like, "No, man.
No.
What are you talking about? We've been together for 2 years at this point. You never mentioned this to me." And he goes, "Isn't that what happens when everyone drinks alcohol?"
Wait, so he's
no,
the one who doesn't know?
He had no idea. He had a white dad, and his mom was Thai, and she didn't drink. So I guess she just never told him, and he grew up having no idea that it was a thing. And so it wasn't
Asian
until he was in his 20s that he learned that was a thing.
Yeah, no, apparently for Asian, we can take Pepsid. So like anything that with Pepsid in it, like
Oh.
Pepsid I see, I can actually, yeah. So sometimes I do that, like at industry parties. Like I would
Mhm.
actually, knowing that I would have some potential clients there, I would actually
Mhm.
just take some, or like even meetings, I know that we will drink for sure. Because I mean, I know you can refuse alcohol, but first of all, I do like alcohol. But second of all, it's nice to accept it too. So I'm like, especially if I have clients who are Asian and it's very much in our culture, like, hey, you want to drink? Like, yeah, yeah. So that yeah, so I usually would take a drink, but I get really red. There's good thing about bad things, right? Sometimes I do know that if I certain situation, I want to get red, which is like people's like, "Oh my god, you're so drunk." I'm like, "Oh yes, I am so drunk. Please rescue me now."
Oh,
Yeah,
please.
I can't take anymore. So it actually make me drink less. But
Yeah,
the
that's
first
smart.
time I actually tried Pepsi to not
Mhm.
get red, that's a problem. I did not stop drinking.
I was gonna say it's knowing your limits is really important, and that's the one thing I
Hmm.
always say this on stream because I'll have drinks when I stream at night, but I
Hmm.
always tell people like I love alcohol when I like the taste of it. I don't drink stuff
Hmm.
I don't like the taste of,
Oh, Sam. Hmm.
and I don't like ever feeling out of control. Like I don't
Hmm.
like getting anything beyond lightly tipsy is just uncomfortable for me
Oh, hmm, yeah.
personally. Um,
Yep,
I
I
I
agree.
I don't like getting messy, so I'll just drink as long as I don't feel beyond tipsy, and as long as I'm
Hmm.
still enjoying the taste. As soon as I'm done with the taste, I'm done drinking.
Due to like years of conventions, I used to go to conventions almost every other week. So I go to a lot of conventions.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's not
That's
a it's not a once a month thing. It's not a once a quarter or season kind of thing. It's a once at least every other week. Sometimes every week. Because I have
I
the
cannot imagine. Like, how did you not burn out from traveling so much? Was that not
right.
exhausting?
Normally I have a suitcase out at all time. There's no reason for me to pack away a suitcase. Like
Oh my
always have a
gosh.
suitcase. There are months that I live in my house less than the day that like I'm supposed to be in it. So I'm paying a very expensive rent for just having a loft. Like back I live in LA downtown, I used to have a
Yeah.
loft. And
Oh
I'm
my
like, I'm paying so
gosh.
much rent for like not being there. It's like an expensive storage unit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have a favorite convention you go to if you've been doing that for so many
Ooh.
years?
So that's a tough question. I get to ask a lot actually, but we have convention that is very great for cosplay. There's some very good
Mhm.
for gaming. Of course, gaming. I feel like our PAX is still the best one in America, standard wise. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, we have E3. E3 is not bad, but it changed in the last few years, so it's kind of like
Yeah.
I'm not sure about it right now. At
Yeah.
this PAX, you get to see different friends. So the East and West, I do like West a little bit better. I know East Coast people like East Coast PAX East better, but West, the city is just better. Boston is
Yeah.
like it's cold. Usually it's April or March. Is at the street don't make sense. There's not restaurant nearby. Things close early. But at PAX West, where it's like PAX Prime from where I was, back in the days, back in my days. So that was PAX Prime. But Seattle is live. It's very lively at nights too. Number like 2 in the morning, you
Yeah.
can go to any bar, you can do bar hopping. So I think those are the best. But for convention like cosplay wise, there's two. There's two on this coast and two on the east coast. The two on the west coast would be Fanime, because it's a convention that
Mhm.
I always go to, and that's the one up in San Jose. And then there's one, of course, Anime Expos. I feel like you might have heard of that one. That's the biggest
Yeah.
anime convention in America too, right in the convention center, LA. And the East Coast, we have two. One of them is called Kasukan. It's a very pretty hotel called the Gaylord Hotel, but it's very white, very pretty white marble hotel, amazing. And the other one would be Colossal Con, which is a water park conventions. So it's
What?
so much fun. Everyone make like swimsuit version of their cosplay. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah,
I've
yeah. I
never
didn't
heard
show
of
you a
that.
picture.
That's so
They're
cool.
so creative too. Like one time I see like a guy who cosplay Juggernaut from X-Men. So they have like a little mask, but then they also have like other floaty and giant floaty with them too because they're Juggernauts, so they run into people. So it's really fun. Yeah.
So cool. Wait, so do people do in addition to doing, like, cosplay swimsuits, do people
Mhm.
wanna do a lot of shoots in the water there? Is that a
Oh
thing
yeah.
that they do?
Oh
Oh
yeah.
my
There's people
gosh.
do like in the water, out of the water, around the area. There's also have they have petting zoo as well. So take a picture with like tigers. Uh, yeah, we go to the field to get more photos. Yeah, it's quite a thing. And my friends and I would rent this villa looking thing, and like it's two
Mhm.
villa connect together too. So it's like 16 people total. And then we'll just have every night we just have a great party. It's great because like the villa is kind of separate from the main hotel, so you can get as loud as you want,
Oh my
and
gosh.
we get a bit ratchet.
That sounds amazing, that also sounds exhausting,
Yeah.
especially adding in, like, how much you physically exert yourself if you are swimming and if you are, like, doing
Hmm.
water park stuff. Oh my god, I
Hmm.
would be wiped.
They also have this hot tub place, and they also serve alcohol. Yeah, the whole hotel water park is one thing, and they'll serve alcohol. And it's not just alcohol, slushy. They sell alcoholic slushy.
Okay, all right. Next year, when conventions happen again, fingers crossed they're happening again next year, please remind me to go to this convention because I'm booking a vacation.
Even just watching people is so much fun. Yeah.
That's all I would do. I would just get a drink and sit in the pool and float and watch people, and that would be it.
Yep, that was part. I do that sometimes too. It's great. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I got to start planning cosplay, bathing suit cosplay stuff. I'll start brainstorming.
You should start doing if you haven't already, do like cosplay goals. Like when do you wear cosplay on stream and stuff?
I've done a couple cosplays on stream. I've started to slowly do it. This year we did Nancy from Stranger Things because we were doing a Dead by Daylight event and they have a Stranger Things DLC. We did Chloe from Life is Strange, and I did Sabrina from the new Netflix Sabrina show. I think I'm forgetting others, but slowly, I'm getting there. Oh, I did my whole playthrough of The Last of Us Part 2. I did as Ellie.
I did walk in for a few of them, but I didn't because I have to run and go, so I don't want to I was lurking. No, but it's great. Like the Dead by Daylight. I'm not sure how, but they have so many IP. It's amazing. Like all the characters and everything.
Yeah, and it's really cool because they have Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
They have Michael Myers from Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
They have they just did the new Silent Hill pack, so they have Pyramid Head from Silent Hill.
Yep.
And I'm sure chat is going to remind us of all the other IPs I'm forgetting, but they have a surprisingly big roster of classic horror.
Jason too, right?
Jason's actually the only one that I can think of that's a big one that they don't currently have. Every time they announce a new content release, everyone's like, "Oh, is it gonna be Jason? Is it gonna be Jason? Please let it be Jason." And it's never Jason. It has never been Jason yet. But one day, fingers crossed.
Imagine a Dead by Daylight movie with all the IPs.
Honestly, I actually think it could be really cool. I even think the lore that they've created for their own characters and their own world would make for either a really good movie or a really good TV show, even a limited run, a 10-episode miniseries, because they have their own lore and it's so rich and it's so detailed. It's really interesting.
Oh, if someone at Netflix watching or listening right now, get on it.
Get on it, Netflix. Make it happen. Oh yeah, chat's reminding us Ghostface from Scream, which I don't know how I forgot him because I love Scream and Ghostface terrifies me. And then the pig lady from Saw as well.
Pig lady.
Yeah, she's scary. Her face looks like a pig, but she has human hair. And
I wonder if I've seen it before. I did see a few Saw, so I don't it's been so long. Saw is great. Yeah,
they've made 10 Saw movies at this point too. They've made so many of them.
But every single movie they try to be like, "Oh, here's the review." Again, and there's another twist. How is there always twists?
I know. Well, it was the same thing with they did the Final Destination movies.
Oh yes.
It always cracked me up because the titles are the Final Destination, or it's Final Destination, Final Destination 2, Final Destination 3, The Final Destination, and then Final Destination 5. And it's don't sell me the fourth one acting like it's the last in the series and then give me Final Destination 5. What?
There's lots of movie that's numbering weird issue. Fast and Furious. They have some of the ones
Yeah. They just have Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And it's which one is that? Which order do I watch these in? I don't understand.
Fate, which I understand is 8, but then it's not number anymore, so it's kind of strange. But the weirdest one is Gnome 2. You know that movie? The one where the guys go oh my god.
Troll 2.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Troll.
Yeah. And it's not a sequel to anything.
There's no Troll 1.
It's just called Troll 2 because apparently the director thought that if people thought it was a sequel, they'd be more likely to see it.
It's kind of genius.
So I don't know if you know a lot about this movie, but I thought this was fascinating. I believe the director/writer and his wife were Italian. And they made the movie after being inspired, having a dinner party with their friends. And some of their friends at this dinner party didn't eat what was served to them because they were vegetarian. And
Okay.
so this man wrote a whole ass horror movie about the dangers of being vegetarian and not eating meat. And if you watch that movie, literally it is not subtle at all. Like if you've never seen it before, literally they're like eating vegetables kills the bad guys, and they're like it's anti-vegetable hilarious propaganda, and it's the funniest worst movie ever. And if you haven't seen it, please watch it. Like,
so it's like a diss track, but in the movie form.
it's just a diss track against vegetables, which is like, dude, who cares that much? Just like, who gets that salty over inviting their friends to a dinner party? And they're like, oh no, thank you, I'll pass on the steak. And that man was like,
Bitch, I'll make a whole
vegetarianism
movie
is
about
evil. Yeah, right? He was like, just you wait and see.
I did not know that. That is
Yep.
good
But
to know.
I love, again, chat is saying it makes sense now that I think about it. Like, as soon as you find that out, it's on IMDb trivia, by the way. So look that one up, because the trivia on that page is hilarious. Apparently, their English wasn't super solid, but they refused to let the actors change a word of the script. So if they wrote something in super broken English that didn't make sense or didn't sound natural, and the actors tried to make it sound a little more natural, they would stop and be like, that's not how I wrote it. Please read it correctly.
Why? If they know they're not native speaker, and you...
Because that's his vision. That's his vision, Martin. Who knows?
You know what? It works so well because it's so bad. That is great.
It's hilarious. And that's what makes it even funnier is some of the dialogue. Again, that helps make sense. Some of the dialogue is really stilted and weird, and that's why, like, some of the sentences just don't quite flow well.
The bad acting doesn't help, but
the bad acting does. I'm sorry, I know way too much trivia about this movie as well. A lot of the people that were hired to do it were not actors. Like the small town they filmed it in, they just put up an open casting call for extras. Which, if anybody listening is not familiar, being an extra is basically like you're just a person who's on screen in the background, but you don't have any lines. So it's just like something that, especially if you live in LA, a lot of people just make a quick buck doing extra work.
When I first came to LA, when I first moved here like 3 years ago, one of the people that live in my building worked for actually Central Casting. So I can cut the whole line and say, yeah, I'll just sign up. So I signed up, and then I did a few episodes of different shows. That's funny.
And it's like you just make a bit of money, and usually it's like you sit and you pretend you're in a restaurant, or you pretend you're studying, or whatever it is. So people showed up to this casting call to just be extras and not have to act or talk or do anything. And then they got cast in like the lead roles in this movie because the director was like, I like that guy's look. Let's get him up there. So they had no experience, and it shows. It's terrible.
Man. I need to watch that movie again now. It's just...
Yeah, I'm honestly now I kind of want to watch Troll 2 again.
Like, I'm sure there's some theater in LA that does that, like, like bad movie nights, like sometimes. I know they were doing what's the one movie? The Room. Like, there's this one theater that's like every like first Wednesday of the month or whatever, and sometimes Why So we actually show up for it too.
Well, the wild thing is, so if anybody listening doesn't know, I think we've talked about this when we met, Martin, but I'm from LA. I'm born and raised here. I've lived here for almost 28 years now. And growing up, I still remember when that billboard went up that was just his face, that creepy poster photo of his face. And it was massive in Hollywood. So you'd be driving through Hollywood and you'd just see his face leering at you. And he has this like dead behind the eyes, his eyes glazed over kind of expression. And I thought The Room was a horror movie when I was a kid because that poster was so frightening to me. And
even
then I grew
the name
up.
Sounds like a horror movie.
There is a horror movie called The Room as well, which I just watched recently. So check that one out. It's on Shudder if you have a Shudder through Amazon Prime, I think.
Did you see the one with the mockumentary one with?
Ooh, which one?
Of The Room. Who did that?
Oh, I know they did a movie of it with Dave and James Franco.
James
Are you talking
Franco,
about that
that's
one?
right. Yep,
Yeah.
Have you seen that
The
one?
disaster artist. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's great because they match it. I mean, what's crazy is that some part I didn't know how that movie was made, and they actually kind of describe it. It's like, also lots of bad decision that comes of it, and like
a lot of bad decisions and a lot of expensive bad decisions.
Oh, yes.
It
Yeah.
a lot of that, because a lot of that is completely how it happened in real life too, in terms of like, I think he's a very prideful person, and they tried to explain to him that
With lots of
most
money.
people, most people rent camera equipment for
Mm-hmm.
films. Like, unless you're a massive production company that has all of this stuff already, you just
And you
rent
keep
it.
making more movie, planning to. But yeah,
Yeah.
unless that's the case, yeah.
And he insisted on buying it because he was like, I have the money, so we're gonna buy it. It's like, well, that's not really how it works. It was just weird. He's
And
a
he's shot
weird
in
guy.
both digital and in film, which is like, wow. I mean, it's really advanced for its time, like especially the green screen, like on the rooftop. I didn't realize, like, wow, that's actually really good job for that days and age. But I'm like, unnecessary, but okay.
Imagine if they had put all of that money though towards making a good movie. You know what I mean? Like, man, they could have made something really good with that budget, and instead we got The Room. Granted,
you can say that. You can say
it's
something for
hilarious.
lots of video games as well too.
Oh my god, you can say that for a lot of movies in general as well. Like, a lot of movies
yeah.
have $100 million budgets, and you watch them and you're like, why?
Because it's some guy who able to convince another rich guy, a richer guy, to be like, hey, you want to give me like, few millions dollars so I can make this movie? It'd be great.
Yep.
You got this big star in it. They're like, oh, I like that big star. My wife loves him. Okay, cool.
And honestly, if anyone here is listening thinking, surely that sounds simplified. No, a lot of the time that's how it's happened.
Oh,
Honestly, a lot of the time executives are just like, yeah, my kid talks about that TikTok star a lot. Let's get that TikTok star in this movie. How do you think Logan Paul ended up in a film?
Yeah, I never seen it.
That's how.
Yeah. But, like,
I watched it the other day.
Is it good or bad?
You know what? He's as good as you would expect a D-list, low-budgety, crappy horror movie to be. Like, he's no worse than regular D-list actors in a crappy, low-budget horror movie, but he's not like it's very obvious that he's only cast in it because of his social following, and then he can tweet the movie out to his followers and hopefully they'll watch it,
I feel like his expression would be too exaggerating, like not in a good way, but anyway, I'll take a look.
Yeah, it's underwhelming. It's the opposite of what you would think. It's just meh,
Shame.
Yeah,
because like before I came to LA, I was in NorCal. I was working in Silicon Valley. It's exactly the same it's just more money for Silicon Valley for every single app that's being built. Like, there's some guy, rich guy, who convinced some richer guy to be like, hey, this is gonna be the next Uber. This is gonna be the next Facebook. That pitch has happened so many times. Like, those tech bro, oh my god. Like, if you ever live in NorCal and if some guy's dating profile call themselves like entrepreneur, run. Just run.
Well,
that doesn't mean anything.
It's like being on dating apps in LA where
actors.
I was just going to say, literally 75 to 80% of all profiles are like actor, writer, director, whatever creative visionary. Like, I got to a point where if it said that, I just swiped no matter what. I was like, I cannot. The number of times that I went on dates with people where because like I worked in the film industry for 10 years, my dad is a director and a writer and a producer, and as soon as that would come up in conversation, it's like you're not on a date anymore, and they only care about like, well, what credits does he have and which movies did you work on and like who do you know, and it's the worst. It's the worst.
Like, I was on, as I said, I was doing background acting just for when I first came here, just for funsy, to see how it was, to give it a try. It was fun because, again, I didn't take it seriously. Not as in, like, I'm not being bad. I'm just like, this is not my job. Like, I'm doing this. Yeah. Funny thing is that, like, I was on Silicon Valley, the show, but the 2 weeks before that, I worked at Silicon Valley. So I show up and they're like, what you wearing doesn't look the part. It's like, first of all, I'm a background. No one gonna see me. Second of all, I know how I dress. I just dress like this. I literally work like this the other day.
From there.
Yeah, literally Silicon Valley itself, so I know. So then they had me change. But then on that episode, there's just some other girls I was like definitely new to the scene as well. And she was like telling everybody, like, we're all background. We don't really care. We're just like on our phone, on our book, whatever. But she's like telling like, oh, how's she gonna be a big star and she's gonna do all this stuff. I'm like, in my head, I really going like, oh, honey. Oh, honey. Sure, you will. This would be great. This is your La La Land moment.
Yeah,
of course,
you and everyone else who moves to LA.
Yep.
Yeah, I did. I auditioned for something that was the part was a Twitch streamer. Like literally, that's who the character was. And it
Uh-huh.
was very interesting reading the script and reading the audition sides and being like, oh, this is what people who don't watch Twitch think Twitch streamers sound like.
What about that game? What do you think about that one game?
Yeah, it was very ugh. But I digress. That game
That one trailer? Do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah, I assume you're talking about the one that's like the girl is a streamer and it's
Yeah.
the mod. Yeah. I think that that is so unbelievably harmful, and
Mm.
the fact that it could be promoted also in the year 2020 when we have so many people coming forward about allegations of harassment and assault and
Hmm.
stalking, to have a game that's like, you're this girl's moderator and like her fate is in your hands and it's your job to guide her life and help her through stuff. Like, it is so harmful to perpetuate the notion that that is the role of a moderator in the first
Hmm.
place. And the fact that it's a woman as the streamer as well, the fact that it's a woman speaks volumes, because if the game were a man as the streamer
Hmm.
and the moderator helping save him and protect him from a stalker and guide his life and his choices, like, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now because the
It'd
game
be a
wouldn't
very
be
different
made.
take.
Because that's not that's so clearly not what they're doing with that game.
It's
And
another guy who's like, this is gonna be a great idea. Talk to some
yeah,
rich guy, funded the game, and then like that happened.
it's so
Hmm.
reductive, and I think it is doing more harm than good to the conversation that we're having in the industry in terms of, especially in terms of just listening to women about how they feel in the space. And
Hmm.
so, I think they're also doing a great disservice to the actress who played her to be advertising it, giving her a writing credit because she improvised her exact wording of the lines. I think a lot of people who aren't in the industry take that to mean, oh, a writing credit. That means she's okay with everything that was said and that like she got to choose what
Mm.
happened to the character in it. But
Not
if you
really the
don't work in the
case.
industry, what you don't know is what that means is that they give you an outline. They give you like, okay, in this scene, you're going to express to the camera that you're frightened and it needs to end with you exiting your room within 30 seconds or whatever. Like, they give her a set directive and then they say just word it however feels natural to you. That's not writing a role. That's just improvising the difference between oh hey, my phone's ringing, to give me a second to check my phone, or oh, my phone just lit up, or you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
that's not having a say over the direction of the game. That's just choosing how you word a sentence. And I think it's, I'm going to use the word harmful 1,000 times here. It's really harmful that they are falsely advertising her role in the story as being something other than what it is.
Hopefully, she get a different chance for do something else in the future that's not tied to this. Because like,
Yeah.
if you Google and that's the first thing that show up, that's not a
Mhm.
good thing.
I think a lot of people don't realize as well. A lot of people think it's like, well, if she's not happy with it, she'll just tweet about it. Like, if she's not
Oh,
happy with it, she'll
okay.
just talk about it. And what I
Definitely
think
not.
people don't know is you sign a contract. So this
Hmm.
girl got approached or got an audition, or however she got the role. And even if the project changes, even if they came to her and they were like, let's say they pitched this game to her and the moderator character didn't even exist, and they were just like, it's just you and the viewer. She signs a contract and it will have a defamation clause saying that she's not allowed to say anything against the game, the company that makes it, the people involved with it,
Hmm.
anything,
Yep.
anything less than positive. And then they can completely change the nature of the story. It happens all the time with movies. That's why you don't hear actors talking bad about movies until like 25 years later,
Yep.
because they sign contracts that lock them into not being able to criticize it or speak out
And
about
on
it.
top of like 10,000 different NDA. Yep.
Oh my gosh, I'm still under NDA from projects that I did, not even as a Twitch streamer, but like in my film history before that. Like, keep
Yeah.
that in mind. I've been a Twitch streamer for more than 4 years now, and I still can't talk about projects I did before that because I'm still under NDA. Like,
That's Yeah, from the
Yeah.
film industry and silicon, from the tech industry, there's also what I've learned is that, and I've been on it before. There's NDA for NDA. This is
Oh,
crazy. Yeah, you can't even talk about if you have signed an NDA or not.
I got an email for something, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago now. And they were literally like, the only thing I knew was who was sending it to me. Like, obviously, I could see the sender of the email, but they were like, hey, negaoryx, we want to talk to you about something. We can't say what. We can't say why. Would you sign this NDA so we can tell you what the conversation will be about? And I was
But that's
like,
very standard, though.
okay, and it's totally standard. But again, I
Yeah,
think a lot of people don't realize that, you know?
yeah. Hmm.
And so I signed the NDA, and then it was something really cool. But I still haven't been able to talk about it, and it's been almost like 2 years because things move
Hmm.
really slowly sometimes, you know?
And I mentioned this in this chat before. It's like there are times that like I also do many different things. One of the things that you can assume more than one photo. I take photos. There are times that I'll be taking photos of products or something that has yet to release, like long later. And of course, I don't talk about it, but then I don't remember that exercise. Usually I just wipe it out of my mind, because like
Yeah.
I won't talk about it, so I'm gonna wipe it out. But then few months or few years later, when they announce it, I'm like, what do you mean new product? I saw that before. I was so confused. Like, yeah, no, I saw that mouse like 2 years ago. What do you mean coming out
What do you
this
mean
year?
new?
Yeah, what do you mean new? Like, oh right, I have the prototype sitting in my house somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's definitely it definitely takes some getting used to.
yeah.
I think growing up with my dad working in the industry, it helped a lot because I learned from a very young age, just like, unless you are given express permission to talk about something, just don't talk about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yep.
that helped me a lot transitioning to the industry that I'm in now.
So
And
how did
from
you get involved into Twitch streaming?
So my last job before I started streaming, I worked at a voiceover talent agency.
Mm,
And I was an agent's assistant. So I started out in the commercial and promo department.
mm,
So
mm,
obviously we all know what commercials are, but promos, if you're unfamiliar, are kind of like the short, snippy, really, really quick ones that come on that aren't commercials for products, but are like, stick around, Fox News coming up next, like really, really short things like that. And those guys make bank. Promo guys make a ton of money.
stupid amount of money for
S-
that amount of work.
oh my gosh, so much money. But it's also because they're phenomenal at what they do and they get it done in 2 minutes and, like, they're amazing and those guys work really hard. But I started out in those departments, and then after maybe like 3 months, I moved into the video game and animation departments in addition to commercials and promo.
Mm.
And so then I started kind of working more, sending auditions to clients that are voice actors for video games. Part of the fun of that, of course, is they get sent to us under working titles, so they're all made up fake names. But because there was only one other assistant in the entire department, so it was just me and my friend Nick. And we
Mhm.
would instant message each other and be like, oh my god, do you think this is the new Mass Effect? Do you think this is the new, like, is this a new Dragon Age game? Like, what do you think? What do you think this one is? And he one day said to me, he was like, have you ever thought about streaming on Twitch? And I had no idea what it was. He pulled up a random stream and he was like, you could totally do this. Like, you talk to people, you love games. Like, why don't you do that?
Mhm.
And I didn't really think much about it. I kind of just forgot that it was a thing. And then my stepdad actually was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And
Mm.
I lived in California. Like I said before, I'm in LA. And he was hospitalized on the East Coast.
Mm.
And in addition to just like life-wise not being able to be there as much as I would have wanted to be, financially I couldn't afford to up and move to the East Coast. I couldn't even afford to visit more than once. I was only able to visit him once when he was in the hospital.
Mm.
And he had been around my entire life, since I was like a tiny, tiny, tiny little kid. And he had raised me with this love of video games. He taught me how to play WoW. And when he moved out of California to the East Coast, that was one of the only ways we would still hang out, was we'd play WoW together.
Mm.
And so I thought to myself, I was like, well, Twitch is a thing. Like, I'll make an account and maybe somebody can bring him a computer in the hospital and he can just watch me playing World of Warcraft. And things had gotten so bad, he had lost so much weight that he couldn't move his hands anymore. His hands were just so like, I don't know what the right word is for it, but he'd lost so much weight. He'd lost. They were kind of perpetually like curled up. He couldn't really move his fingers much anymore, and so he couldn't game anymore. And I was like, well, maybe somebody can show him me playing video games, and it'll, you know, be like I'm there with him. And then I had never watched Twitch, like outside of Nick at work showing me a stream and being like, look what Twitch is. I'd never seen it before. So I didn't know what moderators were. I didn't know you could ban people or purge comments. I didn't know how to do any of that. I booted up a test stream for the first time and got a bunch of like really nasty sexist trolls and like harassed and stuff, and immediately was like, I don't want my stepdad seeing this until I learn how to do it, because that's just gonna bum him out if he's trying to watch me and he's seeing people like send threats my way in the chat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of said like, okay, I should do a couple of these. Like I should do a couple test streams to learn how to do it. That way I know what I'm doing when someone shows it to him. And then people just started watching. Like I had no idea that anyone was ever going to find my channel, or that anyone was ever going to.
This?
This was 2016.
Okay.
And then people started watching, and then people would ask me like, well, what time are you going to stream tomorrow? And I would go, oh, I don't know. And they would say, well, what's your Twitter? And I'd say, oh, I don't have one. And they'd be like, okay, well, maybe post about when we can find you. What's your schedule? Like, it was really the people that watched in those first few days that made me start actually taking it seriously. And then I just kept doing it. Then I realized I really liked it. And then I've been doing it ever since. So
wow.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
what I was going to say. That's one of my moderators in chat who has a much better memory than I do. So June 2016. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
That's, oh man. But you love it so far? Everything's great?
Yeah. I mean, I started doing it. So I left the voiceover talent agency that I had worked at to go back to school and finish my degree. When I initially actually started college early. I left high school after my sophomore year when I was 15, and I started college. I started college when
Are you a genius that I didn't know about?
No, definitely not a genius. But I did my first 2 years of high school. I left in the first like couple weeks of junior year to start college. So I started college when I was 16, and I actually injured my spine during an internship on my junior year, and ended up having to be on disability for a couple years from the spinal injury. So by the time all of that was over, I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue my education or not. So I worked for a while. I ended up at the voiceover talent agency. I really loved a lot of things about that job, but I decided that I did really want to finish my education. So I enrolled, I decided to go back to school, and I started streaming in the summer between, I quit my job in the spring, I spent the summer streaming, and then I went to college in the fall. So like I had a couple months to kind of test out streaming.
I'm giving you props for going back into it. You know how hard it is to get back into schooling after you like got out of it? Especially
it was
so
rough.
Many things that we do these days, both filming industry and of course the gaming industry, but especially the filming industry, you don't need like a school education. You don't need really that kind of resume. You just need to know, can you do the job? If yes, then you're on it. That's it. Yeah.
I've always loved school, and I really did miss it. Like I was always really bummed. I had a lot of issues financially with school. Like my parents didn't have any money for school. It was always something that I was taking out loans for, and I was working to supplement that. I was always paying for all of it myself. So like that aspect of school was difficult, but I always loved it. Like I've always been a really big nerd. I mean, I started college when I was 16 because I just wanted to be in college already. You know, like I always wanted to learn. I loved being in a classroom environment, but I, again, still lived in LA, and my college that I went to was not in LA. My school was 100 miles round trip every day. So if you live somewhere where there's no traffic, 100 miles means 100 minutes. Like it's usually that easy. But
not
in LA,
20 miles.
In LA, it meant that every day I was in my car from bare minimum 3 hours a day to 5 hours a day on the heavier end.
It's
And I
crazy.
was streaming full time. And I was still working a part-time job because I couldn't afford to go to school otherwise. And I was double majoring in film and media studies and psychology of social behavior. So I was doing both really long classes because film classes, you always have to add 2 hours to like watch the movie in the classroom. And
Mhm.
then psych is a bunch of science
Lots of
classes, so there's a
informations.
lot of
Yeah.
labs, lots of things like that. So it was a lot of really, really, really long hours for the classes, 3 to 5 hours a day in the car. And with my spinal injury, the most painful thing for me was sitting. And all day
Mm.
long, I was sitting in the car, I was sitting in lecture halls, I was sitting to stream, and it was making my spinal injury worse. And I was never sleeping, and I was always exhausted. And I think I functioned just on like fumes. Like, I don't know if I made it through that year. I have no idea. I had like a 3.92 GPA, and I don't know how. To this
That's
day, I just
crazy.
don't know how it happened.
Yeah,
Um,
my GPA is so low. I don't even remember how low it was. Like,
the whole time I was just like, why don't I have a 4.0? I'm doing terrible, and I'm
you
gonna get
you
kicked
you're
out,
the
and
you're
it's so
both kind of
awful.
nerds, right? You're the fandom kind of nerd, but you're also the book academic kind of nerd. I'm like
Yeah.
neither. I'm like, but here's the thing, right? I'm such a fake nerd. It's great because people assume that I play games and watch anime because I should cosplay, so they assume all
Mhm.
this stuff about me. I don't, but also because I'm a guy, I can BS
Mhm.
anything and people would believe me, which is so annoying about it. I feel bad for you guys, for
Yeah.
women, but like for me, I'm just like, it's stupid. It's just so stupid. I do
Yeah.
it just to show how stupid it is. But yeah, I research my character because I don't really spend time to watch anime. I really like photography, but I don't
Yeah.
have time to watch anime because I also love, uh, a sub over dub. So therefore, I'm like, I don't want to, spend time
Yeah.
that I
I'm the
can't
same
handle
way.
both.
Yeah.
But I also my academic wasn't that well. But it's weird too because I study also double major. I did economics and
Oh.
international world trade. Nothing photography, RC, or tech related. Really
Oh,
strange.
wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it depends on when you know me in life. I'm a very different person in each part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know me more as a photographer because we met as we did a photo shoot together.
Yeah.
Also, for those of you who haven't seen yet, we got some great photos. We should,
They're so
yeah.
beautiful. I know
Sadly, we have more.
once
Yeah.
everything's like all clear and good with the pandemic, at some point we have to shoot together again with new hair color now too. Cuz
Definitely. Yeah.
I remember being so sad. I had to change my profile picture, and I remember being like, oh, I missed the ones Martin took. They were so pretty.
I'm glad you like them. We can always get more though once it's all over.
Yes. Once it's all
Yeah.
safe in the future, definitely. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting also how many of us studied something so completely different to the industry
So
that we're
different.
working in now, you know?
Are you like very not sure surprised or like interesting to find that you're doing streaming full time? Like how does that feel?
Yeah. Oh, it was a total surprise. So for me, I finished that first like truly nightmarish year. That year where I was doing everything and I was in school, and I went back for my junior year even though I
Mhm.
had already done a junior year somewhere else. Just because of the way they transfer credits here, I had to redo it at a new school. And right as I was trying to make my decision, like, I remember thinking maybe I'll do a bunch of summer classes and I'll just try and, I only have 1 year left to graduate. I'll just power through. And my school called me and they were like, hey, our bad. We didn't read your high school transcripts correctly. And we know you graduated early, but we're going to need you to retake an entire year worth of high school level US
Dang.
government and US history. And they were like, you can't transfer it in from somewhere else. So, like, doing it, online or at a community college or whatever wasn't an option. And
Uh-huh.
I had to take them sequentially, which means you have to do one class in the fall, one class in the winter, one class in the spring. So you can't even
Damn.
just do them all in one summer or something.
Mhm.
And they were like, it doesn't fit into the schedule with any of your other classes. So you will have to do an entire extra year, and we won't prorate your tuition. So you'll have to pay an entire year's worth of full course load tuition for one class every semester. And the only time it was offered was right during, like, I would have been commuting in rush hour 5 hours a day for one class every day, 5 days a week for an entire year. And I looked at that and I was
Wow.
like, there's no way. Like, there's absolutely no way.
Uh-huh.
I said to myself, I was like, you know what? Here's what I'll do. Instead of summer school, I'll take the summer to just try out streaming full time. I'll keep
So
doing my
blessing in
part.
disguise.
Yeah, I was like, I'll stream full time. I'll keep doing my part-time job on the side, but like, you know, I'll just see how this goes. And the second that my classes let out and I could focus, I had planned my schedule, so I was in class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I was streaming all day Tuesday, all day Thursday, all day Saturday, et cetera, et cetera. And
Hmm.
as soon as I wasn't going to classes and I could stream like 6 days a week, my viewership just went up, 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 up. And I got partnered within, like, I don't know, the end of the summer. I think it was like September or October. I think it was September that I got partnered.
Wow.
So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I can do this full time. Never mind. I'm
That's
not going back in the
crazy.
fall. And so I just didn't go back to school in the fall, and I've been full time streaming ever since.
Good
So
stuff.
I didn't expect it, but I called my dad and I was like, what do you think I should do? And my dad was literally like, these opportunities won't last forever. And he was like, you can always go back to school if you need to, but right now you have people that want to watch you on Twitch, so just ride that wave for as long as it lasts. And
Good call. Yeah.
yeah, smart man. I'm really grateful that my dad has always been super entrepreneurial, so
Hmm.
he
Yeah, it's,
didn't.
it's a very open-minded for this, because
Yeah,
a lot of parents would be like, no, you have to finish school. That is your life.
my dad never even graduated high school, and he won a Tony, and he is directing movies now for a living. Like, my dad knows more than anyone that he doesn't need a piece of paper that says he got an education to be educated or to be
Hmm.
successful. So he was very
Random fact,
supportive. Hmm.
really random fact, and I hope nobody's watching or listening to this. I mean, it's weird. But one time I was shooting with Mika Burton,
Mhm.
who's daughter of
Oh, I
LeVar
love her.
Burton.
She's so
Oh, she's
great.
great. But I went to her house, and then but she said it so casually. I walked by the fireplace. I'm like, the heck are those? I was like, oh yeah, those are a bunch of Grammy that my dad won. So it's all over the wall. There's like so many of them just like lining up. I'm like, what the heck? And she was just like, yeah, just some Grammy. Anyway, here's my backyard. It's like, wait, what? But what about
What?
those?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad has always lived on the East Coast since I was a kid. I'm lucky that I never had to do that. Like, oh, that's just my dad's. That's just my dad's award shelf. Because I think as a child, I probably would have been mortified. But yeah, I was always really, really grateful that he completely understood it. And he was just like, opportunities don't last forever,
Mhm.
but just do it for as long as it lasts. And to be fair, he was like, make sure you are saving money. So just in case this goes south, you're prepared for that. But
Mhm.
beyond that, he was like, do what makes you happy. As long as your bills are paid, who cares? Like,
And you're getting better and bigger on this too. Like I saw you on the front page the other day.
yeah, that was pretty wild. That was actually a record for me. That was the first time I've ever passed 50,000 viewers. I've never had
Oh
that
yeah, I saw a
before,
post about that too.
which is
It's
never in a
awesome.
million years did I think that would ever happen. So that was pretty cool. And
Speaking of views, sorry
hmm,
to interrupt you, but
no, go.
so here's the thing. I didn't know about this, and then I did know about it, but I didn't connect it with you because I didn't know.
Hmm.
After I did my shoot with you, and then my
Hmm.
friends say, "Oh, I know her." I'm like, "Oh, really? Cool." Because I didn't know that much. I'm still new to streaming.
Yeah,
She was a girl about the bunny.
yeah.
I'm like, "What bunny?" And then like, "Oh, I did see that clip before."
Yeah.
Why has that become such a big thing?
Yeah, so
Do you
for
hate it,
anyone.
by the way? By now, it's like you like freaking hate it.
No, no, no. I
Oh,
definitely don't
okay.
hate it. For anyone who is listening who might not know, I had an experience last year of becoming a meme, which is a thing that is very strange to say. But a clip from my stream of me doing a first playthrough of The Last of Us went viral. And it kind of had these like two waves of things happening with it, where it went viral just for the reaction, where people were like, oh, that's so hilarious. But then somebody green screened the background, so they green screened the game out,
Okay.
And then people started putting my reaction, like my webcam, over videos of other stuff and had me
Okay.
reacting, screaming and crying to other things happening. And that's how it had this like second life of, it
Interesting.
wasn't just a viral video, it became a meme format. And then I still literally today still, apparently it's now a TikTok thing that people do, which I didn't know because I don't use TikTok. And people that know me like from high school that don't know that I'm a Twitch streamer because I actually don't have any social media. Fun fact. I've never had an Instagram or like a Twitter for me as a human. I don't have a Facebook. I don't have anything just for my stream. And so like high school friends started texting me these random memes from like Super Smash Bros and Minecraft and like all this stuff being like, is this you? Why did I see this on the front page of Reddit today? What are you doing for a living that this is happening?
Wow.
So I had a lot of explaining to do. It was really weird. But yeah, it's still going strong. I still get tagged in like new compilations all the time. It's been in a bunch of like Markiplier and PewDiePie videos, and like it had a huge life on YouTube, which I wasn't on YouTube at the time, so I had no idea that was a thing.
I see that chat is spamming your emo, so I can tell that you're embracing it.
Yeah, so fun fact about the emote. Anyone who's listening who can't tell, it's of a ghost bunny with an arrow through it. And I actually didn't even commission that. I did every year for like Halloween and Christmas, my emote artist does recolors, like holiday recolors.
Mm.
And I never tell him which emotes to recolor. I just say, hey, like 4 or 5 emotes with a Halloween theme to them. And then he just comes up with his own ideas. Like, he's just really talented, and whatever he comes up with, he does. And he sent me that one, and he was like, please don't hate me. Please don't hate me. I did a dead rabbit one. He was like, you totally don't have to use it. I understand if you hate it. Can you laugh about this yet? Can we have the dead bunny emote? And I put it up temporarily, and then my community yelled at me until I promised to keep it permanently because they loved it so much. But it's been really interesting. On one hand, sometimes I still have people come into my chat from that, and they're like, oh my god, I just found your channel. That's so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, I'll have community members who have been around for like half a year. They've been here for 6 months, 9 months, whatever. And one day someone in chat will mention that, and they'll go, that was you? Oh. What? Because I've dyed my hair, I've cut my hair, I look so different now, and I don't talk about it very often. It always kind of struck me like, if you go viral and you constantly talk about the thing you went viral for, it feels a little bit like your mom trying to prove she's hip. Yeah, like, it just feels kind of tacky. Like, it feels like the minute you think it's cool, everyone who likes it stops thinking it's cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I pretty much don't talk about it unless someone asks me about it, you know?
Yep. It's like when Hillary Clinton's like, yeah, Pokemon Go. It's like, okay, you know what? We're done with that.
Exactly. It's like as soon as like a brand uses a meme format, you're like, the meme format's dead. Everybody shut it down. We don't like that meme anymore.
Yeah.
So I found that like not talking about it has been probably what also helped it last longer because I didn't kill it.
Speaking of Hillary, speaking of killing a meme, so we all know the meme, thanks Obama, you know that one?
Yeah.
They have a whole subreddit about it, but Obama actually did it, and then they're like, all right, it's done.
We're done.
We don't have, they literally closed down that subreddit completely because like, he did it. There's nothing to do. Yeah. And it's hilarious too.
That's why I never meme on it myself, because I'm like, as soon as you do, everyone else is done with it.
He dunked milk, cookie into milk, but it wouldn't fit. It's like, thanks Obama, and done. The whole thing's like, all right, cool. We can beat this. Yeah.
You can't cross that line. You can't ever. And it's really interesting because right before that happened too, I think that happened in like January last year, so like January 2019. And literally the month before, in December, I went viral for the first time with something totally unrelated, with something from my first Zelda playthrough that I was doing of Breath of the Wild. And I experienced the exact same thing with that as well. Like, people would always be coming into my chat during that playthrough, finding it from this video that went viral. And it was the same thing. Like, people still come into my chat today and they're like, can you make the car alarm noise? Can you make the noise from the bunny video? Can you make the noise of you making that sound? And just on principle, like I just refuse to do like bits about it because I think that's when it dies, you know. And it was the same thing with the Zelda thing. Like anytime I play Zelda, everyone always memes about it, but if I were to lean into it, the memes wouldn't be fun anymore. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing like for Last of 2 when it announced and everyone's like, I'm definitely gonna play this.
Oh yeah. So everyone was really hyped for me to stream it and for me to play it, and constantly the amount of comments that were like, do you think there's gonna be a dead bunny in this one? And like, are there gonna be any memes coming out of this one? And all game long I went, nope. And then very mild spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2. I promise this is mild, but I guess pause now if you really care.
It's long enough. It's fine.
It's long enough, but I give people a warning, just to be fair. There's a scene where Ellie is hunting, and you see her walk up to the ground, and she lifts something up, and it's a dead rabbit. And immediately I was like, oh my god, why did they do this 2 games in a row? And I, very funnily enough, as part of a show that they do here on Twitch called The Weekly, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a weekly gaming news show. I happened to be one of the hosts of the show the week that they had the 2 game co-directors of The Last of Us Part 2 on for a Q&A. We got to interview them. And all of the questions were submitted by chat, and we had a producer in our ear that would pick the best questions from chat, put them on the screen, and have us interview them. It was really cool. Highly recommend checking it out, because actually we did get to talk to them. We asked them about multiplayer, and they confirmed that they're working on multiplayer for the future. So go check that interview out. It's great. But one of my mods, who's here now in this chat for this interview, asked them, like, hey, there's a dead bunny in The Last of Us Part 2. Is there a reason that was put in there? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And the producer said in my ear, he was like, negaoryx, this question's for you. Negaoryx, like, you haven't made it to the next question yet. This is your question. Ask that question next. That's your that one's for, we put that there for you. And I was like, okay, man.
Fine.
I'm just kidding. They're great, and I love that producer. He's wonderful. But it was really funny because as soon as I read it, I was like, okay, guys, I'm really sorry I have to ask this question, but, you know, chat knows I went viral for it. Can you answer? And immediately they were like, fun fact, there's actually a story behind that. It was supposed to be a different kind of animal. It was supposed to be like a bird or a pheasant, and we changed it to a bunny at the last minute. And he was telling the story. He was like, it turns out we didn't have a character model for the bird, and we were going through like our archives. We had one for a rabbit. And then he trailed off and he went, no, it was for you. We did it for you. We did it for you. Like, so thank you so much to my mod in LA for asking that question and getting them to say live on stream that they did that for us and for the memes. They were great. They were very sweet about it.
Achievement unlocked. like a reason for something in the game because of you. That's
they were so sweet about it. I know they were just kidding, and it was just because they had it in their archives. But the fact that they even knew that was a thing that existed and that they had heard of me from that still made my fangirl heart grow like 10 sizes bigger. So
that's awesome. I mean, it's great that you get to be enjoying, like, it's not a bad meme, you know, it's a good thing. And then so you get to be like, be part of it, and then you're gonna be like, oh, that's awesome.
If I'm gonna go viral for anything, I think it is very on brand, I guess I would say, because the whole reason that moment happened was because I was so emotionally invested in the story. Like, you don't care that much about stuff unless you're really connecting, and that's kind of what I'm all about on stream, is like, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm too cool to care about video game characters. Like, I've played 20 hours caring about this dude and what happens to him. I'm gonna cry if I think something bad happened to this character.
I mean, there are better characters in games and movies, in entertainment, than real life, you know? A lot of time.
I will say, though, I do think it's a little ironic. I am vegan, and so going viral, having to watch the same clip of a rabbit getting impaled over and over again when I'm vegan and a big advocate for animal rights is
kind of annoying.
Kind of not the most fun thing to have to rewatch all the time. But besides that one small fact, it's a great thing to go viral for. I definitely have no complaints. Everybody's been really nice about it so far, and the world could be so shitty that if anything makes someone laugh, I'm just glad people get a kick out of it, you know?
I mean, we have a lot of trashy people, especially these days, especially in our gaming industry, especially this year. I'm kind of glad that we don't have TwitchCon, but at the same time, I'm like, it would be interesting if there was a TwitchCon and they have to go to TwitchCon because it's kind of a job, but they all been outed for the shitty stuff they do. It'd be like, huh, how about that? How would they act?
2020 has been rough. 2020 has been a lot, and to be honest, like, I think all of us are on the same page about wishing that all of the awful things that have happened in 2020 would not have happened. But definitely, there's a part of me that's like, okay, I'm glad conventions won't happen until next year, given everything our industry has been going through as well. I think having a little breather where we're not seeing each other in person is probably good for all of us, you know?
I think also here's the thing. I think it brought up a because like conventions happening and because of the pandemic, it might be the reason, again, like kind of silver lining of that is the reason why a lot of things can come out to the light, you know? And I said this before too.
Yeah.
Because like, let's say, you know someone did something bad and then you want to, out them about it. You wouldn't able and you don't want to do that if you know you're going to see them next month for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So knowing for sure that
100%.
they have, again, a little breathing room where they're like, okay, I won't be able to see them for a few months. I don't have to deal with my abusers. Maybe it does have that silver lining. It's like, okay, great. I can now talk about what I really want to, tell you all about. And hopefully that will change everything for the better. Hopefully.
Yeah. I think at this point, it has to. And I think there's so many of us that have been so vocal about not even people who were sharing their own stories of being harassed or abused or whatever horrific things that they've had to endure at the hands of other people in the industry. Enough of us have also been such outspoken, vocal advocates and allies that I think there's enough of us saying there's no room for that in this industry to make it so change has to happen, you know?
The bar shouldn't be so low.
Oh, absolutely. It is astounding to me how low the bar is. It is absurd to me. The number of things also that I even wish we could talk about right now that I most definitely can't because, again, NDAs. If you sign an NDA, then you don't get to talk about stuff. But just the number of times, just shitty things going on in the industry. And this is something that, like, I'm not under NDA about, so I can definitely talk about. But as somebody who is not just a Twitch streamer, not just a host, but also does voice acting, and I have a background working at a voiceover talent agency. The last time I worked at the talent agency was like 2016. The spring of 2016 was when I quit. We would get auditions all the time for roles that were characters who were people of color, but they would want white actors to get sent the auditions. And to see now that I am a voice actor, that as a white woman, I'm being sent auditions for people of color, when I firsthand saw from behind the scenes how difficult it was for people of color to get auditions in the first place, is so absurd to me. It's so, like, what year are we living in that people are still doing this?
I'm confused about this part, though, especially for voice acting. Like, why would they want a specific skin color when it comes to voice? It shouldn't affect it, right?
Well, when you think about the power systems and, like, the structure that's involved here in terms of how somebody books a role and what kind of money they're making if they're not booking roles, what you'll see a lot is, for instance, if you have a role for a character that's a young Black woman, right? And if the casting director that is sending that audition out to agencies sends it to maybe, let's say, 5 agencies, and they say, submit your top 5 clients for this. Each of those agencies, so they're going to get 25 reads back, right? Each of those agencies is going to send it to more than 5 clients, just in case one of the clients doesn't get back to them in time, or doesn't record the right lines because sometimes they just read the wrong script or they mess it up or whatever it might be, you know? You always want to send it to more people than you need to submit to casting.
Increase your chances, yeah.
Yeah. And then each agency is doing that. And let's say they only have 5 reads to submit, right? A lot of the time, actors, for instance, when we talk about like why it's important that a Black woman plays a Black woman on the show, what other roles are they getting to book? If we want to see Black women succeed and actually have a seat at the table, they have to be able to book a role in the first place. So you're looking at like the fact that most agencies only meet with potential clients if they're recommended by existing clients means that they're only even getting a meeting if they know someone who's there already. So that pool is even more limited. And then their quality, so like the literal quality of their microphone and their recording at home is what's qualifying them as well. So a lot of auditions get thrown out because the quality is just such garbage that the casting director can't even hear if they're good enough or not. And if that woman, if this like imaginary woman we're talking about has never booked a role before, what money is she using to buy this equipment in the first place? It's this perpetuating cycle of like a lot of the times a lot of
situation. Yeah.
Exactly. Like they can't invest in thousands of dollars of equipment because they're not booking anything. And they're not booking things because their quality is not good because they don't have the expensive equipment. And then a lot of the time what happens is these roles, so if we're talking about something in video games or animation, they're written by white people and they're supposed to be representing someone who they're not a part of that group. So a lot of the times they'll play into racial stereotypes. And if you have a character who's a Black character, let's say like a Black teenage girl who was written by 30-year-old white dudes with no diversity in the room, just 30-year-old white dudes, and then that role is played by a 40-year-old white woman, who is stepping in to say, hey, this is not representing young Black women well.
The concept of young Black woman is like 20 years ago. Yeah.
And if you do not at any point have a Black woman's input in this process, absolutely nobody has that input to be like, oh, this is actually a seriously harmful racist caricature. And this character should be changed. This language should be altered. This is doing more harm than good. And this is me speaking in a general way about it, but this is not a hypothetical situation. Every time you have watched a show and you have seen an animated show or a video game where you're like, oh my God, who on earth depicted us like that? Like, who on earth okayed this? We get one Black character and that's it. We have one Black best friend who's in the background and they get 3 lines and these are the lines that they say. It's because of that hierarchy and it's a vicious cycle. So like when we get an audition, or would, because obviously I don't work there anymore, and it's for an angry older Black man stereotype and the men that they request to read on it are old white dudes, and the role is written by old white dudes on a show where the showrunner is a white dude. Like it's not making room for anyone else at the table, and it's creating an echo chamber of just only white people telling jokes that they are finding funny, characters that they are finding funny, and it's not allowing for any other perspectives to come to light. And
so how do we change that? I mean, you don't have to have an answer for this, but in your opinion, do you have some idea what we can do?
Absolutely. I think there's a bunch of things. One, the fact that somebody, like, oh God, there's so many things just on that chain of command. First off, like at the studio level, they should be not limiting themselves and not working the way that they have always worked for showrunners in terms of diversity. So like you look at the show, for instance, if we're talking about how many women have done shows in animation, there's less than 10 adult animated shows that have ever been led by women ever in the history of animated television ever. You can name 10 on the air right now done by men, and there's less than 10 ever done by I'm pretty sure there's 5 or less, but I don't want to say that and then be wrong. So there's definitely less than 10. And Tuca and Birdie, the showrunner was Lisa Hannawalt, who previously was the artistic director on BoJack Horseman. And that show got canceled on Netflix after one season. And the two leads were two women of color, Ali Wong and Tiffany Haddish, playing characters who were meant to be women of color as well. And they canceled the show after one season. Luckily, Comedy Central picked it up. But like, even the fact that when we're just going that far back, and this is a show with two women who were women of color leading it, and again, it was by a white woman, even, like, we're limiting voices at the very, very top of like who's creating these shows, who's staffing them, who's in the writer's room in the first place. But then when we get down to the voiceover level, without being able to say, there's so much I want to talk about that I'm under NDA for that I'm not allowed to say, but the number of times that we received pushback. So one of the top 5 like big studios, so like Fox, DreamWorks, Disney, those kind of big studios, they were doing a big animated movie. So when you think big kids animated movies, I'm talking like the level of like Trolls, Ice Age, Toy Story, like that level of big, right? And the lead character that they were casting for, the casting call was for a white man. And I knew someone who was an agent who was like, I know like one of our actors who's a black man is going to be perfect for this. And they don't know it yet. Casting doesn't know it yet, but he's going to crush it. And I know him and he's so funny and like he's going to bring so much life to it. And so she submitted him anyway. And she was like, you're gonna listen to this guy. Like, he's phenomenal. And they loved it. The casting assistant loved it. They passed it on to the casting director. The casting director loved it. The writers loved it. And eventually the studio heads were like, we can't do that because that's not marketable with a black lead. And that was just it. They literally every step of the way, they were like, we love him. We love him. We love him. Like, it's bringing the character to life in a different way. Like, we didn't even think of it this way. And he's so phenomenal. He's so talented. Everyone's going to love him. And they were like, it's just not that marketable. So that's white
really
guy?
Stupid. Especially when it comes to voice acting. It's really about the voice, how it showcase.
It's not on the end of marketing. The way the studios look like it. Yeah. I mean, that's not the way it should be about just telling good stories with good people, and you shouldn't be eliminated for that because some fucking old white dude is sitting there saying, oh, we're not gonna make $300 million off of this, which, you know what, old white man, fuck you don't know that because you've never done it before. You know what I mean? Like, what are they basing that off of? Because they've never tried. It was so infuriating seeing every step of the way people risking their connections, their personal and professional connections, to push to say, like, I know you told me not to, but I'm doing it anyway. I know you told me this wasn't who you were looking for, but he's great and he deserves to be listened to and he deserves to be heard. And to go all the way up to the top only to be like, not marketable is so absurd. And it's so deeply ingrained in the studio system in Hollywood. There's so many steps that we need to be changing there. And it definitely starts every level of the way. Something that I think would be really helpful in terms of like what needs to change as well is not discounting people based on audio quality, because if you're booking somebody for a role, they're not recording it at home anyway. In case anybody listening to the podcast version doesn't know, like when you book a voice actor on a role, obviously, it's different during the pandemic, but most of the time, they're not recording at home with their own home studio quality for, like, a Pixar movie. They're going into a studio. It's professionally directed. It's professionally engineered.
There's some guy sitting behind a glass, literally, like, making sure the sound is perfect.
With their hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment, And so to deny somebody a chance at a role because you listen to it and it's like, oh, the audio quality is not good, casting director passed on it. Like, getting casting to kind of see past that, I think, would be huge. But more than that, really what needs to change is at the top. What they're willing to push for, the stories they're willing to tell, and having diversity every step of the way in terms of just allowing people a seat at the table that hasn't been there before. So even like something that I know you'll probably know, but again, people who are listening might not. A lot of the ways that people get their start in the behind the scenes kind of Hollywood, so not actors, but like writers, directors, etc., is starting as like interns. You know, you start as an intern, then you become an assistant, and you kind of like network and you work your way up. And a lot of those internships are unpaid, and they should not be, because the only people that can afford to do 60 plus hours a week, not 40 plus, 60 plus hours a week unpaid, are people who are in positions of privilege where they can afford to live without being paid for 60 hours of work. Yeah, they need to be living somewhere where they cannot be paying rent.
Not even just
and
food, just rent.
Yeah, and unfortunately, again, then you have that perpetuating cycle of like, well, what kind of perspectives are these people going to have when everyone is coming from the same class? You know, like everyone who's getting those internships, Hollywood is so very much about nepotism in terms of everything is family and who you know, and, you know, getting your foot in the door is so difficult. And it just, that
the last
to me
name matters a lot.
Yep, absolutely. And like that to me is a huge thing that needs to change in all facets of the entertainment industry is unpaid internships. Because if we can get more people to get that first gig on their resume, I think that'll help a lot.
So do you think like gaming or like streaming is better now because we're cutting out the kind of like a middleman thing because like people can make big by themselves, or like does that help? Like, because I feel like many industry are doing that right now where people are self-working, self-making money instead of going through like it has to be an industry, it has to be a studio. There's a lot of industries that's doing that right now, and I think we're getting more for people who have talent to showcase, right?
I definitely think that the nice thing about streaming in terms of showcasing ability is there's definitely less restrictions in terms of like hitting the start streaming button, but less doesn't equal none. And there are still roadblocks in place, both in terms of like when we talk about companies sponsoring people or even just sponsoring events, like even just placement in events. When you look at any kind of event that's like Twitch Rivals or any kind of a competitive esports thing, or even just smaller scale events that like individual games run, and you look at the roster, again, you do see a lot of those really echo chambery kind of vibes going on there. I will say, I think there's a lot of phenomenal organizations doing work in the space to minimize the hurdles that a lot of people have to overcome. So for instance, Broadcaster has the 1000 Dreams Fund. They offer $1,000 scholarships to women who are working in the games / streaming industry in general, which can do like $1,000 can go a long way. And I'm sure you know this in terms of microphones, computers, lighting, camera, lenses, like sometimes just the basic things like you can be really, really, really funny on Twitch. And if your mic is so shitty and crackly and you have no lights in your room and nobody can really see you on your camera, or if you have a PC but it's too slow or your internet's too shitty or so dark in your room nobody can see you, like you can be the funniest, most talented person in the world and people are still going to click off your stream because it's, I mean, I've done that when I'm watching somebody stream that I'm really enjoying, but their audio quality is so awful that you're literally doing this because you're like, oh my god, it hurts my ears. To give people like that just like a little bit, like a couple $100 to be like, here you go, boost your setup, get a little bit of upgrade. Sometimes that's the leg up that people need to
huge
go that extra mile, you know?
Yeah. When I first started streaming, like I'm still pretty relatively new to the streaming world, but like good thing, you know, I have I've been working really hard in other kind of platforms and networking and working with different friends. So I'm able to have this set up pretty well. Like my lighting and my mic is, you know, all paid by clients where they send me the product for it. But I know it make a huge difference. I mean, I invest a lot into myself too, in the camera and everything. But just like lighting itself, like you guys are looking at like few $1,000s worth of lighting right here. Is I can actually do a lot more than just now lights. Like in my normal stream, I can make it color change and all kind of stuff. It's pretty amazing. Same with this mic. I didn't buy it, but like it's just it does make a huge difference if you can put people, as you said before, in position of decision making power, like studios and writers and stuff like that. And I have lots of conversation with my friends from the Asian community as well people of color, especially Asian male, as myself. Like, I don't see myself gonna be in any kind of movie or anyone like me anytime soon. There might be some, but it's gonna take at least my next generation, like my kids' generation, to be like, oh, it's gonna be cool to be Asian. Until then, I'm gonna be able to tell my kids like it was so not cool. It was so not cool to be an Asian guy.
I remember there was a show on, I'm pretty sure it was ABC, and God, I know I'm gonna date myself because I want to say it was a couple years ago, and I'm sure it was probably like 10 years ago or something at this point. And it was called Selfie, and it ran for one season. They canceled it after only one season, and it was John Cho and Karen, whose last name I forget, who was on Doctor Who, and I'm blanking on her last name, but she's a very cute redhead woman.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
And, yeah, you know who I'm talking about. And she, it was a modern day retelling of Pygmalion. So it was My Fair Lady, essentially, but modern and, whatever. And it only lasted for one season. And so many people were heartbroken when it got canceled because for a lot of people, it was the first time they saw a romantic comedy TV show with an Asian American leading actor who was just, the show wasn't about him being Asian. He was just a hot man that was her love interest. And for so many people, they were like, this is the only television show I have ever seen where I saw myself in a hot leading man role. And it is so absurd to me that it is the year 2020, and that can even be said that is one television show that so many people have only had that one show to look and see themselves in.
That's why Crazy Rich Asian was such a big thing for us, because like, no matter how good or how bad the movie is, like it's been like how many years? Like 20 years, or like a huge long time. The last one was Joy Luck Club, which is like all Asian cast, but it's been such a long time. It's like, oh, that's a thing. We didn't know that was a thing, but like we do not have Asian cast, especially Asian male, especially in romantic comedy. So
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so I think even going back to the question we were talking about earlier, when it's like, why is it so important? Like, this is something people talk about a lot in voiceover. Like, so why is it even important then that a role for a character who's a person of color to be played by somebody who's a person of color? And a lot of it comes back to this as well, where it's like, those actors, I think a lot of people labor under this delusion that like the performance is what matter. If you're a good actor, you should just be able to be cast in any role. Yay. And that's just not how it works. And when I tell you that like, this is the Venn diagram of like, roles that white people get are going to be to play white people and to play people of color. And auditions that people of color get are maybe, sometimes, occasionally to play people of color.
Very stereotypical too.
That's it. And this is with somebody who worked at an agency. I'm not saying this as like, as somebody who watches TV, this is what it looks like. As somebody who was sent casting breakdowns and their entire job was to email them to the people that they wanted to read for it. Like, it is absurd that white people could read for anything, but if you were a black actor, the limited number of roles you got was so teensy tiny. And even when they say they're like, we're open to casting anyone, they always end up casting a white person. They always end up casting a white person. Always. And it needs to change, and it won't change until people start more actively pushing for it. So like personally for me, when I got auditions that are for characters who should be played by people of color because they are Asian characters or black characters, like, absolutely, if anybody listening to this considers themselves an ally in the space, if you're reading for those roles and you're not writing back saying, I'm not black, so I shouldn't be reading for this, like, you are a part of the problem. Like, the only way that people who are voice actors, like, we don't have a lot of power over who they're sending it to or who's writing it, but the only thing that I can control personally is what I read for. You know what I mean? Like, I can't control who they're sending it to. I can't control who's writing it. I can't control who's in the room. All I can control is if I am taking opportunities away from people who have less.
But because that's hard, really right? What it because is. That also takes away your own opportunity. It's a tough thing to do. It's help, but it
would only be hard if I were that self-centered. Because at the end of the day, if I want my life to just be about me, and nobody else, like, I'm trying to think how veiled I can say this. Yesterday, all week long, I've been on the phone with my agent. I've been texting my agent and emailing my agent over a job that I had booked. I had signed a contract for. It was not a voiceover thing. It was something totally different.
Mm.
And something popped up that I had a concern about that was not made apparent to me in the previous talks leading up to booking the gig. And as soon as I discovered it, I was like, I'm really sorry, but I can't do this. Like, I ethically do not feel comfortable with this. And I know that I'm missing out on thousands of dollars. This is a multiple thousands of dollars gig. And like, my family could really use that money. That would be really helpful. But at what cost? Like, I'm never going to say yes to something to be that self-centered, to further myself above other people, or to put my morals or my ethics aside to make a quick buck. Like, I'm always going to lead with my conscience. And I would be a really shitty ally if I was like, oh, I know that this role is for an Asian woman, but like, oh, I would really love to book this role in a video game, so I'm just gonna read for it anyway. Like, that doesn't help anyone except me make a quick buck, and I don't want to make that kind of money. I don't want to with anyone who would cast a white woman to play an Asian woman and take a job away from an Asian woman.
It feels dirty, huh?
Yeah, no, I want to see my peers succeed in a space that is consistently stacking the deck against them. And short of creating my own animation studio and like creating my own shit to cast them in, this is what little I can do, is say no to the things that are not meant for me and speak out about what I can speak out about. You know what I mean?
Is that a dream for you, by the way? Having your own studio casting people?
You know, I would love that. I think before becoming a Twitch streamer, I really wanted to work in animation development. Which, in case anyone's not familiar, development is the stage before a show goes into production, before they actually start making it. Development is like you get sent a script and you read it and you go, holy shit, we have something special. We should make this. And it's getting the show from being pitched to getting made. It's that in-between space. And I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to like protect projects and like be the voice for projects that might have been overlooked. I love the idea of having my own either animation studio one day or working in casting, doing something like that.
Maybe that's the goal.
One day.
Maybe that's what you do.
One day. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully. That would be nice. But fingers crossed.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. Like I know we talk about so many things. I always feel bad too because I always feel like, oh no, I'm keeping them. But I hope you enjoy it as well. So you don't.
No,
like,
this was awesome. I'm sorry. We definitely got sidetracked by like really heavy stuff there. I have no
problem. Oh, I'm happy about it. Yeah. Like I always like this is what this chat show is about. Like I want people to be real. I want people to be able to speak what they want to talk about at all time. And then always like, it's great to catch up with friends, especially during pandemic.
Yeah,
like,
it's nice.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I really, really appreciate it. I know if I have anyone in my community in the chat, if y'all could just like show Martin some love with some heart emotes or some thanks for having us on tonight, because especially I really appreciate that your show is just very much about like, what do you want to talk about? Especially in 2020, I think it's really important now more than ever that we have difficult conversations and like talk about things that other people might not be talking. And
it's tough too, like because like especially some streamers, especially streamers, where they want to talk about things that when they're on their normal stream, people will only talk about things that they will talk about, and they don't want to make it uncomfortable for their audience. So I want to have a chance for people to, please let me know what you think. Like how can we make this a better place for everybody?
Yeah, I appreciate you giving us the space to do that tonight. Thank you so much, everyone in chat who's been hanging out for this. This has been a really great talk, and I appreciate you for having me on. Thank you so much. One last cheers. Cheers to you. Lil clink.
How can we find you, by the way?
Okay, so if you want to see which shows I host, which characters I voice, which tabletop RPG shows I'm on, you can follow me on all social media platforms at negaoryx. That is NEGAORYX. And I am the only person ridiculous enough to use such a silly made up name, so it is the same on all platforms. There's nothing after it that's like TV or gaming or anything like that.
Live.
I'm on two. Yeah, no live. I'm on 2 different tabletop RPG shows, so if you like Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop, you can check me out. Both of them are on Tuesdays. I'm on a Harry Potter tabletop RPG called Witchcraft and Wizardry, which is every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv.
What house are you?
I'm a Slytherin in real life.
Same.
Yep, I know, that's why we get along. But on the show, I play a second-year Gryffindor student, so she's very different from me, and I do have to do a British accent for it. So if you want to hear me do a British accent, come by Witchcraft and Wizardry sometime.
Fun fact: if I watch more British TV, and if I go back to Hong Kong for a few weeks, I get my British accents back.
Do you?
Because I was taught British English first.
Yeah.
That's why, like, whenever people watch my stream, they get confused because, like, they can't really locate my accents.
Yeah.
It's a mix of Hong Kong English, British English, and California English. It's all mixed maxed into one.
I love that. My mom's from London, and she's a single parent. So growing up, I just learned English from her, and all of the TV shows that we watched were like Naughty and Postman Pat and British shows. So all it takes is if I go to the UK, I'm speaking in a British accent in 48 hours or less. Like that's how fast it is.
Code switching.
If I watch too many Harry Potter movies, that's it. Like I'm talking in a British accent. It's so because I learned to speak British English before American English before going to school, it comes out really, really quickly.
Another fun story real quick. When I first came to America, I was not a popular kid in school, especially one incident where I asked my classmate for some reason American don't say classmate, but one incident I asked my classmate for a rubber, which is not what you mean eraser here in America, but that's what I used to call it. And and here's the thing, right? If you're an adult, you'd be like, yeah, this guy's cool, this guy's fucks. Nope, complete opposite. It's like not when you're a kid. I was not a popular kid.
Oh God. What? Wow. What a great last story to sneak in at the end of the show. Right. There. Perfect.
Alrighty. Well, everyone, thank you very much for watching tonight. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for the sub. Thanks for everything. I hope you had a great time. Again, you can find us on all the platforms. On Modern One Photos on everything, and she is. How do I say it?
You can say
negaoryx?
Yeah, no, you got it. That was perfect.
Okay, on everything. So please go follow her. And of course, you can listen to this on Spotify, on iTunes, and everything. But yeah, thank you so much. And I will see y'all next time. Bye. I am so red.